The Master Tavern Keeper's History of the Old World. The tale of Dorin Heldour and his best friend Katalin Kandoom entertained me for many a night as a child. I cannot possibly explain how I treasure the memories of my uncle's best friend Hans Voigt regaling us with their exploits in wondrous detail. I honestly do not think I can do his retelling justice, so I will not even try, but in broad strokes, I can give you the gist of their story and hope that that is enough. Let us first, though, set the scene. The Saga of Dorin Heldour and Katalin Kandoom. Dorin Heldour, along with Katalin Kandoom, are considered two of the greatest dwarf heroes in all of recent Dawi history. And by recent, I mean that they both lived around 900 years ago, which is recent for a dwarf. Their most famous exploits took place back at the height of the 7th century of the imperial calendar. Dwarves, of course, have much longer lifespans than we men, around 200 years or so, although some have lived for as long as 5 centuries. So the 7th century obviously did not wholly encompass the entirety of the lives of Dorin Heldour and Katalin Kandoom. Anyway, as I was saying, what actually precipitated this empowering friendship was down to yet another dwarf. It was back in the year 657, after stumbling across some ancient texts that had been recovered from the fallen dwarf hold of Carrick-Van, that an entrepreneurial dwarf prospector, a bockie if you like, by the name of Thori Gundrickson, led an expedition to the caves west of Vandrage, commonly known as the Blackwater Lake, in search of Gromril. Now, before we talk about the expedition, let's delve into some history and some economics, both subjects dear to my heart. Gromril. Gromril, as you no doubt know, is both the hardest and rarest metal in all the known world, and dwarves, in particular, value it above all else. Och, now that's saying something, as a few dwarves I met back in Albion would poke your eye out if you even looked at one of their golden shiny trinkets in a way that could be construed as envious. Oh, yeah, but thankfully on the continent here, most dwarves are more restrained. Yes, mostly. It depends on the dwarf, of course. Anyway, let's get back to Cragmere, shall we? Sorry, Sedrik. I mean Carrick-Van. Cragmere is what we in the Empire tend to call the Dwarf Hold. Well, the ruins of the Dwarf Hold. Anyway, as I was about to say, that whole area is exceedingly rich in Gromril, and there is an explosive reason as to why. Apparently, and there is plenty of contemporary evidence to support this, so please do not mistake my meaning, but back through the mists of time, a very large meteor, a roaring, burning rock from the stars, crashed into the cold, hard rock of the World's Edge Mountains, smashing itself into smithereens and leaving a gigantic crater. The surrounding rock was shattered, fractured, melted and warped, and infused with the minerals and metals that had made up the meteorite, completely changing the internal composition as well as the external complexion of the land. The heat from the impact was such that it vaporized the very snow and thick ice off the tops of all the nearby mountains, and the crater left in the wake of the impact was quickly filled by a deluge of meltwater, cooling the molten rock about it. It is this that was named Vandraj, the Black Water Lake. The shores of the lake had provided the dwarves with a bounty of riches over the centuries, an embarrassment of gems, some not found anywhere else in the known world, and mountains of gold and other precious metals. However, foremost and most greedily desired amongst all of these riches is, of course, Gromril. Gromril. Was there ever such a thing so closely tied to the power of the Dowie? There is no finer nor stronger metal. There are no more deadly arms nor durable armor in the known world that have been forged from it. Anyway, in the aftermath of the discovery of this stupendous cache of resources and potential wealth, like dusk-born ravens to the field of battle came the dwarves, building strongholds around Vandraj, places from which to march out and mine. And mine they did, and the rewards of their labour, incalculable riches, flowed in, eventually culminating in the founding of the dwarf hold of Karakvan, both itself and its mine complex hewn out of the hard cliffs that overlooked the lake. In the years that followed, the wealth and power of Karakvan grew. It attracted the finest miners, the most savvy traders, and became an important, nay, a great hub in the vast realm of the Dowie. Then, centuries later, 1500 years before the start of our imperial calendar, came the Time of Woes, that great series of calamitous earthquakes and eruptions, precipitated by the explosive meddlings of the newly emerged Ratman in Kavzar, at least according to my friend, the exiled archmage Calhordis Whitemane. These tore through the spine of the World's Edge Mountains and wrought death and devastation. Everything changed, as everything is prone to do. At Vandraj, it caused huge fissures in the bed of the lake that allowed gallons upon gallons of water to pour into and flood the mines and lower levels of the dwarfs' underground complex. Thousands died, their panicked, shocked screams of anger drowning in their throats, the tunnels they had worked quickly filling and clogging up with their lifeless bodies. The tragedy, the loss, was not just in lives though. Powerful artifacts, mountains of treasure, jewels and gems too were washed away and scattered. At worst, they were all but lost beyond chance of finding. At best, they were trapped beyond reach. For some of the surviving dwarves, the prospect of trying to recover from such a soul-crushing disaster was too much. Many left, only to find that the destruction and danger they had fled had beset the entire realm of the dwarves. Those that remained, the most entrenched, the most devoted, stoically began to salvage what they could, but once more woe beset the hold, as trouble came a-rapping at their gate and scratching beneath their feet. First came the greenskins, rampaging orcs, no doubt smelling blood in the black waters, poured out of the Darklands and over the mountains like a deluge of destruction themselves. The wave came, and crashed against the stone defences of the hold. But the stalwart defenders fought back, and though few, they held. They might well have held indefinitely, were it not for another threat, this time from below. Ratmen, displaced by the final destruction of Kavzar, came in their blighted race's great exodus out across the old world. They came through the tunnels and newly formed cracks and caves in the world's crust their explosive sorceries had caused. At Van Draj, they burst forth from under the mountains and into the flooded halls and mines of Karak-Van. Many drowned as they emerged, but many did not. And so, with the greenskins pounding against the upper defences and the Skaven pouring up from below, defeat was inevitable. Yet still, the proud survivors, those stoic defenders, fought bravely on as their numbers dwindled, little by little, day by day. Untold, honourable last stands, normally the stuff of legendary sagas, became commonplace, and the names of lost heroes were trodden into the mucky, dirty flagstones of the befouled hold. Yet still, they fought on. Within a year, though, Karak-Van had fallen. The bright embers of its fire all sputtered out. The proud life within its halls completely extinguished. The defiance of its warriors snuffed out, each squeezed still and lifeless between the poorly wrought iron tongues of orc and rat. But although Karak-Van was lost, it was not forgotten. Untapped veins of Gromril still lay interwoven in the rocks there. The riches of yore were still hidden in the mud and silt, and artifacts of power awaited the intrepid. And the intrepid did indeed come.
Oh, yeah. The leader of the mercenary band I belong to, Sven Hamhelm, told me that whilst journeying to Karak-Van on such a quest, that his own father, a runesmith, had lost his own life, although Sven told me no more than that.
I can well believe it. The overland roads that lead to Cragmere are fraught with danger, and the shattered underground underways of the Ungdrin doubly so. Yet still, the ruins of Karak-Van, the depths of Cragmere, still draws dwarf prospectors and Boki from all over Karazhanka to this very day.
Och, but let me guess, all who have tried have died.
Many, yes, but not all. And even in death, success can be achieved. A number of expeditions have managed to get to the flooded lower levels and deep mine tunnels, and many lost treasures have been recovered this way. Some have even gone further, taking and holding ground within the decayed halls of the old hold itself, using these as a base from which to more thoroughly explore and even mine once more. The first expedition to claim such success was that of the runesmith Kadrin Redmane from the hold of Zufbar, a hold that had had close ties with Karak-Van during its heyday. It had been to Zufbar that much of the Gromril had been sent for smelting during those times.
Och, now wait a crow of the crock there. Did you just say Kadrin Redmane? Wasn't that the family name of that Thane in Carrick-Cadrin, the one who guards the gate? The one that the two slayers, Snorri Stonebreaker and Strollvar, encountered.
Ah, you've an eye for the details, Master Alchemist. Indeed it was. The Thane, Durgrim Redmane, was actually a descendant of this runesmith, according to our friend Strollvar. Anyway, it was 3 centuries after the fall of Karak-Van that Redmane's small expedition came. They found the rank halls and mouldy walls relatively quiet, and were able to both exterminate, or at least drive out, the pockets of ratmen that they encountered. This achieved, they wasted no time, and began to mine what veins of Gromril that they found still above the waterline. However, their activities soon attracted unwanted attention, and soon after, 1136 years before the start of the imperial calendar, if I remember correctly, Redmayne himself was ambushed and killed by a mob of orcish bowmen on the shores of the lake. Without their leader, the remaining dwarves clung onto their gains for another decade, but with the driving force of the endeavour gone, and before the situation became dire, the handful of survivors gave up, returning to Zufbar with as much Gromril as they could carry. Since then, there have been other expeditions, each seeking to overcome the unique problems that Cragmere presents them with in their own way. Some have recruited slayers to help them defeat the trolls and other monsters that now inhabit Karakvarn. Others have employed weapons of fire and flame to keep marauding Skaven swarms at bay. Yet others still have invented ingenious diving machines to explore both the flooded mine workings and the lake itself. Many have had a modicum or two of success, but ultimately all have failed to get a lasting foothold on the shores of Blackwater. In the year 657, though, it was the turn of Thorri Gundrickson and his allies, and he took a slightly different tack.